Hi, this is Lindsay Zavara, and I'll be working in a private session with a student that's a third grader, so around 9 or 10 years old. Today we're going to be learning about classification. Classification is something we can use to create order in the environment around us, as well as organize things we learn so we can more easily remember them later on. We're going to start with simple shapes, letters, and numbers to better understand how to categorize objects into groups with like or similar characteristics. An easy way to think about it would be to think that numbers like to be with numbers, letters like to be with letters, and shapes like to be with other shapes. So let's begin. So when we look at our disorganized group of numbers, letters, and shapes, we're going to look for things that have similar characteristics, like the star we know is a shape, the square we know is a shape, as well as the circle and the triangle. So they would all stay in our shapes category. Then when we're looking around and we see the number 4, that's going to go in our numbers category. We're also going to put a 3 because we know that that's a number. We're not going to put things like A, B, or C because we all know those are letters, and we're going to keep them in our letters category. So once we've completed putting our numbers into our numbers category, what we'll have left are our letters. And we know that letters like to stay with letters, so we're going to put all the letters into the letters category. That's taken our very disorganized group and put them into a very organized set of categories so that we can see them easier and know where they are. And to expound on that, I would use the activity as follows. We're going to use these disorganized toys here that are just a mess, and we're going to put them into our 3 categories right here to clean up our area. Our categories are animals, food, and vehicles. So we'll start by looking at our killer whale, which we know is an animal. And then we see this big dump truck, and he is a vehicle. And as we go through, we're going to organize each of our objects into the categories so that we can help clean up our area. If I had a child that was having trouble with this, I would take the objects, possibly like the food or something, and organize it into colors rather than going to these large categories here, because I feel like that would be a little easier for a student to work on rather than trying to separate them when they aren't any sort of logical objects or have any connections. And if I have a student that's doing really well with it, then I would take something like the animals and put it where they would sort them into mammals, reptiles, and birds. So it's a little bit more difficult. Now, once we've sorted all of our things into our categories, we're going to take our first category, which would be the animals, and we're going to sort them into even more definite categories where we put them in even more of a similar area with more like animals. We're going to start with, we have an iguana, and we know he lives in the jungle. And we have a killer whale, and he eats fish and likes to swim, so we know he's in the ocean. Same with the dolphin, but an elephant doesn't eat fish. He lives in the jungle. And then we have a cow, and a cow eats hay, so he's on the farm. We know that horses eat hay, so they're on the farm too. Then we have a leopard, and he lives in the jungle. Then we have our alligator. He likes to swim, but he doesn't like to swim all the time, so he's in the jungle as well. And then we have a toucan, and this type of bird lives in the jungle. Then we have a walrus. He eats fish, and he swims, so he's in the ocean. And then we have our little pig, and we know pigs are on the farm. And we also have our dog, who's at the farm, and our sheep. And then we have our penguin, and he eats fish and he swims, so he's back in the ocean, as well as our seal. And then we have our monkey, that he swings from the tree, so he's in the jungle. And then we have our goat, and he eats hay along with all kinds of other things, so he's at the farm. Then we'll have completed that first category into our more specific categories. Next we'll be looking at food. we're going to split into 3 categories again, which would be bread, fruit, and vegetables. We have our bread, obviously it's going to go on the bread. We have eggplant, which is a vegetable. We have our hamburger bun, which is a bread. And we have peas, which are vegetables. Bananas, we know are fruits. Apples are fruits as well. Oranges are fruits. We know that waffles are made from bread, so they're bread. A hot dog bun is bread. We know pears are fruits, and a potato is our vegetable. That would take care of that simplification, or that specification of that category. And our last category is going to be our vehicles, which are going to be our favorite for boys, I'm sure. And we're going to split that down into 2 categories, trucks and cars. So we'll take our first dump truck, he goes in the truck area. We have our car, hot rod, goes in the car area. Our fire truck is a truck. We have our Viper, he's a car. Then we have our another hot rod car. And then we have our pickup truck, like a lot of daddies drive. And we have our tow truck. And then we have our race car, and he goes in our car area. I feel like this activity where they can categorize and then even more specification to the categorization would make it easier for them to understand classification and really build on it. And I think it's something that they could take home and practice at home by categorizing their own toys.